never thought I'd be sitting here, telling this story to anyone. But you asked, so here it is, the truth about my family, the will, and how I found out I was never really forgotten. I grew up in a big, cold house called Willow Creek. My parents were the kind of people who cared more about reputation than love. My sister, Lily, was perfect, at least in their eyes. She did everything right. Perfect grades, perfect manners, married the right kind of man. Me, I was the disappointment. I liked painting. I liked things that weren't practical. And worst of all, I left. I moved away when I was 18, chasing something I couldn't even name. Maybe just freedom. Maybe just the chance to breathe without feeling like I was failing them every second. I sent letters, called when I could, but the replies got shorter, the silences longer. Eventually, it was like I didn't exist. Then they died. A car accident. Sudden. No goodbyes. I came back for the funeral, my hands shaking the whole flight. I hadn't stepped foot in that house in years. The moment I walked in, I felt it, the weight of their disapproval, even in death. Lily was there, of course, dressed in black like a grieving saint. Her husband, Robert, stood beside her, watching me like I was a stranger who didn't belong. The will reading was worse. We sat in Mr. Thorne's office, the family lawyer, and he read it out loud. Every single thing, the house, the money, the land, all of it went to Lily. Not a single mention of me. Not a keepsake. Not $1. Just nothing. Like I had never existed. I remember staring at the paper, seeing my parents' signatures. My mother's was shaky. She'd been sick before the accident. My father's was bold, final, a last act of erasure. I looked at Lily. She didn't even flinch, just nodded like it was expected. Robert smirked. I asked, my voice barely working, did they really hate me that much? Lily sighed, like I was being dramatic. They didn't hate you, Ava. They just knew who they could rely on. That night, I sat in the guest room, the one Lily had so graciously allowed me to stay in for one night, and cried, not just because of the money or the house, but because it felt like they'd wiped me out of their lives completely, like I had never mattered. But then Mr. Thorne called. He sounded strange on the phone. Ava, I found something. You need to come back to the office. I went, numb, expecting another legal slap in the face. But instead, he handed me an old document yellowed with age. This was your grandmother's, he said, an irrevocable trust. She set it up years ago, before she died. It was never dissolved. I didn't understand. He pointed to a line. Upon the death of the last surviving child of Martha Vance Carter, the principal asset held in trust, namely, the property known as Willow Creek and its attendant lands, shall pass in fee simple absolute to Ava Eleanor Carter. I stared. What does that mean? He looked at me, his old eyes sharp. It means, Ava, that no matter what your parents wrote in their will, Willow Creek was never theirs to give away. It was always yours. I don't remember what I said. Maybe nothing. Maybe I just sat there, shaking, holding that piece of paper like it was a lifeline. Because my grandmother, the only one who ever really saw me, had left me away home. And that's when the real fight began. I sat in Mr. Thorne's office, my fingers trembling against the edge of that old document. The words blurred in front of me, but one line burned itself into my mind. Ava Eleanor Carter *. My name. My grandmother's name. The one piece of myself. They couldn't erase Mur. Thorne cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. This trust was established by your grandmother, Eleanor Vance Carter, before she passed. It was designed to bypass your parents entirely, a direct inheritance to you. upon their deaths. I swallowed hard. So Lily doesn't own Willow Creek. He shook his head. No. Legally, it's yours. The stocks, the land, the house, everything tied to the trust belongs to you. A laugh bubbled up in my chest, sharp and disbelieving. All those years of being the forgotten daughter, the disappointment, and now this. But then the fear hit. I looked up at him. Lily will fight this. Mr. Thorne sighed. Yes, she will. I left his office in a daze, the weight of what I'd just learned pressing down on me like a storm cloud. The rain had started again, cold and relentless, soaking through my coat as I walked back to the cheap motel I'd booked on the edge of town. I couldn't stay at Willow Creek, not now, not with Lily and Robert there, gloating over their supposed victory. The motel room was dim, the air thick with the smell of stale cigarettes. I dropped onto the bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Asterisk, what do I even do with this? Asterisk, I could walk away. Sign it over to Lily. Let her have the house, the money, everything. It would be easier, cleaner. No messy legal battles. No dragging my family's name through the mud dot. But then I thought of my grandmother. Eleanor Vance Carter had been the only person in that house who ever really saw me. She'd sit with me in the garden while I painted, telling me stories about her own rebellious youth, how she'd defied her family to travel Europe, how she'd fallen in love with art, with life, with the idea of something bigger than tradition. Asterisk, legacy isn't just what you're given, Ava. Asterisk, she'd say, tapping my nose with a paintbrush. Asterisk, it's what you choose to do with it. Asterisk, I squeezed my eyes shut. If I walked away now, I'd be letting them win. Again. The knock at the door came just after midnight. I jolted upright, my heart pounding. No one knew I was here. No one except Deva. Mr. Thorne's voice, low and urgent. I scrambled to the door, unlocking it. He stood there, his coat damp from the rain, his expression grim. We have a problem, he said. I let him in, my stomach twisting. What happened? He pulled out his phone, showing me an email. Lily's lawyer Victoria Sharp just filed a motion to contest the trust. She's claiming it's outdated, that the terms are no longer valid. I exhaled sharply. Can she do that legally? It's a stretch, but Sharp is ruthless. She'll drag this out, make it expensive, make it asterisk painful asterisk. He hesitated. And there's more. Of course there was. Robert's been making calls. Mr. Thorne continued. He's got connections in town, judges, officials, people who owe him favors. If this goes to court, it won't be fair. I finished. He nodded. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my hands curling into fists. So what do I do? Mr. Thorne sat beside me, his voice steady. We fight. The next morning, I went to see the only person left in this town who might actually want to help me. Mrs. Alara Finch. She'd been my mother's closest friend, or at least the woman my mother confided in when she wasn't busy pretending. Everything was perfect. She lived in a small cottage just outside town, surrounded by wildflowers and old oak trees. When I knocked on her door, she took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. Oh, Ava, she murmured. I was wondering when you'd come. Her house smelled like lavender and old books. She made tea while I sat at her kitchen table, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I found out about the trust, I said quietly. She didn't look surprised. Eleanor always knew your parents would favor Lily. She wanted to make sure you had something they couldn't take away. I swallowed. Did my mother know? Mrs. Finch hesitated. Then, softly, yes. The word hit me like a punch. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Martha was complicated. She loved you, Ava. But she was afraid. Afraid of Henry. Afraid of rocking the boat. When Eleanor set up that trust, Martha begged her to change it. She didn't want to deal with the fallout. I stared into my tea, my vision blurring. So she just let me think I was nothing. Mrs. Finch sighed. She thought Lily would take care of you. That she'd do the right thing. A bitter laugh escaped me. Lily. She didn't answer. I left Mrs. Finch's house with a leaden heart and a single piece of advice. Asterisk go to the cottage. Asterisk the garden cottage. It sat at the edge of Willow Creek's property, tucked behind a tangle of overgrown rose bushes. When we were kids, Lily never went near it. Too small, too plain, too asterisk unimportant asterisk for her tastes. But for me, it had been my sanctuary. The door creaked when I pushed it open. Dust motes swirled in the sunlight filtering through the grimy windows. The air smelled of old wood and dried paint. My easel was still there, covered in a yellowed sheet. My old sketchbooks, stacked haphazardly on a shelf. And in the corner, half hidden behind a loose floorboard, a small wooden box. My hands shook as I pried it open. Inside were my grandmother's journals, letters, sketches, and at the very bottom, a single sheet of paper with Eleanor's elegant handwriting. Asterisk for my wild spirit, Ava. True legacy isn't stone, it's soul. Protect your sanctuary. Asterisk. I pressed the paper to my chest and cried. That night, I called Daniel. He picked up on the first ring, his voice rough with sleep. Ava, you okay? Hearing him made something inside me crack. No, I whispered. He was quiet for a moment. Then, tell me what you need. I took a deep breath. I need you to come here. The next morning, Mr. Thorne filed the official claim on the trust. By noon, Lily had changed the locks on Willow Creek. And by nightfall, someone had thrown a brick through my motel window. Attached was a note, written in sharp, slashing letters. Asterisk. Drop it or lose more than property. Asterisk. I stared at it, my pulse roaring in my ears. Then I picked up my phone and dialed Daniel again. Change of plans, I said, my voice steady for the first time in days. Bring a camera. We're going to war. The brick lay on the motel floor like a threat, glass glittering around it like shattered ice. The note in my hand felt heavier than it should have. Those 6 words, carving themselves into my skin. Asterisk. Drop it or lose more than property. Asterisk. Daniel arrived the next morning, his dark eyes scanning the broken window before pulling me into a hug so tight I could feel his heartbeat against mine. Jesus, Ava, he murmured into my hair. I hadn't seen him in months, not since I'd left the city in a haze of grief. Now here he was, smelling like coffee and leather, his camera bag slung over one shoulder like a soldier's rifle. You're really going to do this? He asked, pulling back to steady my face. I picked up the brick, turning it over in my hands. They think I'll run. Daniel smirked, that same reckless grin I'd fallen for years ago. So we make sure they regret that. Mr. Thorne's office smelled like old paper and anxiety when we arrived. He stood by the window, his usually crisp suit rumpled, dark circles under his eyes. Victoria Sharp filed a motion to dismiss the trust claim, he said without preamble. She's arguing Eleanor lacked mental capacity when she signed it. I barked out a laugh. My grandmother was sharper at 80 than most people are at 30. Thorne nodded. But Sharp has a doctor, Dr. Langley, willing to testify. Eleanor showed signs of cognitive decline in her final years. Daniel whistled low. They're really going there. They're going everywhere, Thorne said grimly. He handed me a thick stack of papers. Sharp also subpoenaed your medical records, therapy sessions from college, bank statements, even your gallery, sales records. My fingers tightened on the papers. Why? To paint a picture, Daniel said quietly. The unstable artist. The ungrateful daughter. The girl who left and only came back for money. The room swayed. I gripped the edge of Thorne's desk. All those years of being the disappointment, and now they'd weaponize it. Thorne cleared his throat. There's more. Lily gave an interview to the *Ravenswood Gazette*. He turned his monitor toward us. There was Lily, perfectly composed in black, her hands folded delicately on the desk. The headline screamed, *Dutiful daughter vows to honor. Parents' wishes against technicality. I skimmed the article. Lily's carefully crafted lies. How I'd abandoned the family. How my lifestyle choices had worried our parents. How this last-minute claim was just me trying to profit from their deaths. Daniel's hand found mine. Ava, I need air. I choked out. The garden cottage smelled of dust and memories. I paced the small space while Daniel documented everything: the brick, the note, the cottage's condition. They're scared, he said, adjusting his camera lens. People don't play dirty unless they're desperate. I ran my fingers over my grandmother's journals. They have everything. Why fight this so hard? Daniel glanced up. Because it's not about the money. It's about you. Winning. A knock at the door made us both freeze. Mrs. Finch stood outside, her face pale. You need to see this, she said, pressing a yellowed envelope into my hands. Inside was a letter from my mother to Eleanor, dated just months before my grandmother's death. Mother, please reconsider the trust. Henry is furious. He says it undermines his authority, that it will cause division. You know how Lily gets when she feels slighted. And Ava, well, she's always been so sensitive. Wouldn't it be kinder to just let things be? The words blurred. My mother had known. She'd chosen. Mrs. Finch touched my shoulder. There's something else. The stocks Eleanor left you. Henry liquidated most of them years ago to cover bad investments. I stared at her. What? He told Martha it was temporary, that he'd replace them. But then the market crashed. Mrs. Finch sighed. They were nearly bankrupt when Lily married Robert. His money saved them. The pieces clicked together: why my parents had clung to Lily, to Robert. Why they'd cut me out completely. And why Robert was fighting so hard now. Willow Creek wasn't just a house, it was collateral. The deposition room was colder than I expected. Victoria Sharp sat across from me, her blonde hair in a perfect chignon, her smile sharp enough to draw blood. She placed a voice recorder between us. Let's begin, Miss Carter. Tell me about the last time you spoke to your parents before their deaths. I clenched my hands under the table. 3 months before. A phone call. And what did you discuss? Birthday? Plans? Mine? Sharp's eyebrow arched. Your birthday is in June. They died in September. You didn't speak for 3 months, no. Not even when your mother had her hip surgery in July. My stomach dropped. I didn't know about that. Sharp smiled. She slid a document toward me. Hospital records showing my mother's week-long stay. Lily was there every day. Robert arranged for private nurses. She tapped the paper. No calls. No visits. Not even flowers. That's not. And your father's birthday in August? Any contact then? I swallowed. No. Sharp leaned in. So when you say you were close to your family, I never said that. I snapped. She smiled wider. Exactly. That night, I dreamed of my grandmother. We sat in her rose garden, the air thick with perfume. She held my hands in hers, those strong, artist's hands I remembered so well. They'll try to break you. She said, her voice clear as sunlight. But you come from tougher stock than that, my girl. Asterisk, I woke with tears on my face and Daniel's arm around me. Outside, the wind howled through the trees like a warning. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. The morning of the first court hearing dawned gray and heavy, the kind of weather that clung to your skin. I stood in front of the motel's cracked mirror, adjusting the collar of the blazer Daniel had insisted I buy. You need to look like you belong in that courtroom, he'd said. But no matter how I adjusted it, I still felt like an imposter. Daniel knocked on the bathroom door. Thorne's here, and you need to see this. He handed me his phone. The asterisk Ravenswood Gazette asterisk had run another piece, this time with quotes from family friends calling me troubled and unstable. There was even a photo of me leaving a bar in the city last year, grainy and unflattering, with a caption implying I'd been drunk. They're really going for it, I muttered, handing the phone back. Daniel's jaw tightened. I got a tip from a reporter. Friend, Robert's been calling in favors, leaning on people to speak against you. Of course he had. Robert's family money bought loyalty in this town the same way it had bought my parents' silence. The courthouse loomed like a stone fortress, its steps worn smooth by generations of desperate feet. Reporters clustered near the entrance, their cameras poised like weapons. I kept my head down, gripping Daniel's arm as we pushed through. Inside, the air smelled of lemon polish and old fear. Lily and Robert were already seated at the plaintiff's table, flanked by Victoria Sharp. Lily wore navy blue, the picture of respectable grief, while Robert's suit probably cost more than my car. Thorne guided me to our table. Remember, he whispered, this is just procedural. We're arguing the validity of the trust today, nothing else. But when Judge Wilkins entered, a stern woman with steel gray hair Sharp stood immediately. Your Honor, before we begin, we'd like to submit new evidence regarding the mental state of Eleanor Vance Carter. At the time the trust was created, Thorne shot to his feet. Objection. This evidence wasn't disclosed. Sharp cut him off. We only recently uncovered these medical records, Your Honor. They show Mrs. Carter was on significant medication for dementia in the years preceding the trust's execution. The judge motioned for the papers. As she reviewed them, my stomach twisted. They looked official, doctor's letterhead, signatures. But something felt off. Thorne leaned close. Those dates don't match Eleanor's journals. She was traveling Europe that year. I frowned. So they're fake or altered. He stood. Your Honor, we request time to verify these documents. The alleged physician, Dr. Langley, isn't even local. Sharp smiled. Dr. Langley is here to testify, Your Honor. The side door opened, and a balding man in an ill-fitting suit entered. He didn't look at me as he took the stand. Dr. Langley's testimony was a masterclass in plausible lies. Yes, I treated Mrs. Carter from 2002 to 2005, he said, adjusting his glasses. She exhibited classic signs of early onset dementia: confusion, mood swings, forgetfulness. Thorne's cross-examination was sharp. Doctor, your records indicate you saw Mrs. Carter at least monthly. Yet her passport shows she was abroad for 8 months in 2003. Langley blinked. I may have misremembered the dates, and your clinic was in Ohio, correct? While Mrs. Carter lived here in Ravenswood her entire life? A murmur ran through the courtroom. Langley's neck turned red. She traveled for treatment. I exhaled sharply. He was lying. But would the judge see it? During recess, I found Lily in the hallway. Fake medical records. Lily, I hissed. That's low even for you. She didn't even flinch. Prove there. Fake. Robert appeared behind her, smirking. Your little liar's out of his depth, Ava. This town knows who matters. Daniel stepped between us, camera raised. Smile for the press, Robert. Robert's face darkened. He lunged. Mr. Davenport. A bailiff grabbed his arm. This is a courthouse. As Robert was pulled away, Lily's mask slipped. Just for a second, I saw fear. The afternoon session was worse. Sharp called Mrs. Penworthy, my mother's old friend, to testify about my estrangement. Ava always resented Lily, she said, clutching her pearls, even as children. And when she left for that art school, she shook her head. Martha was devastated. I dug my nails into my palms. That wasn't true. My mother had barely looked up from her tea when I told her about the scholarship. Then Sharp dropped the bomb. Your Honor, we'd like to submit evidence of the defendant's financial instability. She handed up bank statements, my accounts from the past year, showing the near constant scramble to pay rent. This is a clear motive for contesting the will. Thorne objected, but the damage was done. The judge's eyes flicked to me, and I saw the doubt there. We lost the motion. Judge Wilkins ruled the trust required further examination and set another hearing for 2 weeks out. As we left the courtroom, reporters swarmed. Ava, are you? Just after the money, do you regret abandoning your family? Daniel shielded me as we pushed through, but not before I caught Lily's triumphant smile over his shoulder. That night, I sat in the cottage with Mrs. Finch and Daniel, the weight of the day pressing down. They're winning, I whispered. Mrs. Finch poured tea with shaking hands. Not yet. She slid an old photo across the table. My grandmother standing with a group of people outside a hospital. Eleanor volunteered at Ravenswood General for decades. The head archivist remembers her well. And guess who wasn't her doctor? Daniel grabbed the photo. Langley, exactly. Mrs. Finch smiled. And the real records, they show Eleanor passed every cognitive test with flying colors until the week she died. Hope flickered in my chest. Can we get those records? Already subpoenaed? Thorne said from the doorway. He held up a file. And I found something else. Robert's been using Willow Creek as collateral for loans. If the trust is upheld, he loses everything. The pieces clicked. This wasn't just about keeping me out, it was about covering his debts. Daniel's phone buzzed. He paled as he showed me the screen and news alert. Asterisk breaking. Court documents reveal Ava Carter's history of mental health treatment. Family friends express concern. Asterisk. I stood abruptly, knocking over my tea. They're not just fighting me in court. They're destroying me everywhere else. Thorne's voice was grim. Then we fight back harder. The next morning, we went to Ravenswood General. The hospital archivist, a no-nonsense woman named Gloria, pulled Eleanor's records immediately. She was one of our best volunteers, Gloria said, handing me a file. Sharp as a tack until the end. The documents were clear. No dementia diagnosis, no Dr. Langley. Just page after page of my grandmother's clear, steady handwriting in volunteer logs. As we left, Daniel got a call. His expression darkened. The cottage was broken into last night. We raced back to find the doors splintered, my grandmother's journals gone. The only thing left untouched was a single photograph on the floor. Eleanor standing proudly in front of Willow Creek, her arm around a young me, flipped over, in her handwriting. Asterisk. The truth is in the walls. Asterisk. The photograph trembled in my hands as I stared at my grandmother's message. Asterisk. The truth is in the walls. Asterisk. Daniel crouched beside me, examining the broken lock. They weren't just looking for something, he murmured. They were trying to scare you. I ran my thumb over Eleanor's handwriting. Then they don't know me at all. The cottage felt violated. Drawers yanked open, cushions slashed. My few belongings scattered like debris. but they'd missed the loose floorboard near the fireplace. The one where I'd hidden the most important things after the first break-in. Mrs. Finch arrived within the hour, her face pale as she took in the damage. "This was Robert," she said immediately. Lily wouldn't dirty her hands. Thorne joined us, his expression grim. "The hospital records are solid. We can prove Langley perjured himself." He hesitated. "But we have another problem." "Of course we did." He handed me his tablet. The * Ravenswood Gazette * had published another article this one featuring exclusive photos of me leaving a therapist's office in the city last year. The headline screamed, *Heiress in crisis, mental health records revealed. Daniel snatched the tablet. "This is illegal. Those records are protected, not if someone hacked your email," Thorne said quietly. I froze. "What?" He pulled up another document, a subpoena from Sharp demanding access to my electronic devices. "They're claiming you may have fabricated evidence about the trust." My stomach dropped. "They're going through my phone *. Not yet. But they will if the judge allows it." Thorne sighed. "Ava, they're trying to paint you as unstable, as someone who can't be trusted with Willow Creek." I looked around the ruined cottage, at the shattered glass and stolen memories. Then I picked up the photograph of Eleanor. Where do we start with the walls? Willow Creek loomed against the storm-darkened sky, its turrets like accusing fingers. I hadn't stepped foot inside since the funeral, but now I had no choice. Daniel and I waited until nightfall, when Lily and Robert would be at some charity gala downtown. Thorne had gotten us a key from the courthouse clerk, a temporary measure, until the trust was settled. The front door creaked like a warning as we slipped inside. The air smelled of lemon polish and old secrets. "Where first?" Daniel whispered, his camera at the ready. I thought of Eleanor's words. The turret room. She always loved it up there. We climbed the back stairs, avoiding the squeaky fourth step. I remembered from childhood. The turret door was locked, but the key from Eleanor's strongbox fit perfectly. Inside, moonlight streamed through the round windows, illuminating decades of dust. This had been Eleanor's sanctuary. Her writing desk still sat in the center. Draped in a yellowed sheet, Daniel swept his flashlight along the walls. "What exactly are we looking for?" "I don't know." I ran my hands over the paneling, searching for irregularities. Something hidden. Something. My fingers caught on a slight groove near the baseboard. I pressed. A small section of the wall clicked open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay a stack of letters bound in ribbon and a single, sealed envelope with my name on it. Daniel's breath caught. "Ava." I tore it open with shaking hands. Eleanor's. Familiar script leaped off the page. "My dearest Ava. **** if you're reading this. They've tried to take Willow Creek from you. Don't let them. This house was built with Vance's money, your great-grandfather's fortune. Henry never liked that truth. He mortgaged it to the hilt, trying to prove he didn't need my family's legacy. But the original deed? It's in the safe behind. My portrait in the library. The combination is your birthday, backwards. I looked up at Daniel, my pulse roaring. We need to get to the library. The library door was locked. I jiggled the handle uselessly. They must have changed all the locks after the will reading. Daniel examined the door frame. "Stand back." He kicked just above the knob once, twice until the wood splintered. The door swung open with a groan. Eleanor's portrait dominated the Farwalla regal oil painting from her 60s, her sharp eyes seeming to follow us as we approached. I lifted the heavy frame off its hooks, revealing a wall safe behind it. My hands shook as I input the combination. *060591 June 5, 1991. Backwards. The safe opened with a satisfying click. Inside lay a brittle parchment deed dated 1892, a stack of stock certificates, and another envelope. This one read, asterisk for when they tried to rewrite history. Asterisk. Daniel whistled. That's the original deed. I scanned the document. It stipulates Willow Creek can only pass through the female Vance line. Henry couldn't legally leave it to Lily. It was never his to give. The second envelope contained photographs Henry meeting with bankers, signing loan documents against the house, and a letter from my mother to Eleanor, asterisk mother. Henry's in trouble. The investments failed. He's taken out another mortgage against Willow Creek. He says not to worry, that Robert's family will help, but I'm scared. What if we lose everything? Asterisk the date on the letter. 2 weeks before my parents changed their will, Daniel's phone buzzed. He paled as he showed me the screen of security alert from the motel. Motion detected in my room. They're not just coming for the house, I whispered. They're coming for asterisk me asterisk. We barely made it out before headlights swept the driveway. Daniel and I crouched in the garden shed, watching through the grimy window as Robert's Mercedes roared up to the house. He and Lily stormed inside, their shouts audible even from here. You said the safe was asterisk hidden asterisk. Robert bellowed. It asterisk was asterisk. Lily's voice cracked with panic. No one knew except a pause. Then, colder, Ava. Daniel squeezed my hand. We need to go now. We slipped through the back gate just as Robert's security team fanned out across the property. With flashlights, the motel room had been ransacked. My clothes were shredded, my laptop smashed. Even the mattress had been gutted. But the worst part, the message spray-painted across the mirror, asterisk last warning. Asterisk Daniel called Thorne while I packed what little remained intact. We have enough, I said when he hung up. The deed, the letters, the hospital records. We can end this. Thorne arrived within the hour, his expression grave. I just got off the phone with Judge Wilkins. Sharp filed an emergency motion to seal all evidence, claiming you broke into Willow Creek to plant documents. I laughed bitterly. Of course. She did. We have a hearing tomorrow at 9. He hesitated. Ava. They've also petitioned for a psychiatric evaluation. The room swayed. They're trying to have me declared incompetent. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. That's not going to happen. Thorne nodded. But we need to move fast. I'll draft the counter motion tonight. You two should get somewhere safe. Mrs. Finch was waiting in her car when we stepped outside. I have a spare room, she said simply. As we drove away, I watched the motel disappear in the rearview mirror. They wanted a war. Fine. Tomorrow, I'd bring the truth like a hammer. The guest room at Mrs. Finch's house smelled like lavender and mothballs. I sat on the edge of the narrow bed, staring at the evidence spread across the quilt. The original deed, my grandmother's letters, the damning photos of Henry's financial ruin. Outside, dawn painted the sky in pale streaks, but I hadn't slept. Daniel leaned against the doorframe, dark circles under his eyes. Thorne just texted. The judge denied Sharp's motion to seal everything, but he hesitated. The psych evaluation still stands. I ran a hand through my tangled hair. So I'm one step away from being institutionalized instead of inheriting. Not if we discredit Langley first. He tossed me his laptop. I dug deeper last night. Our esteemed doctor lost his license in Ohio 5 years ago for writing fake prescriptions. I blinked. You're joking. Nope. Paid a $50,000 fine and skipped town. Guess who bailed him out? He zoomed in on a court document. A shell company linked to Robert's law firm. A knock at the door. Mrs. Finch entered with a tray of tea and toast, her gaze immediately falling to the documents. You found it. Then? The proof Henry mortgaged Willow Creek to the hilt. I nodded. But will it be enough? She set the tray down with a clatter. With what I'm about to give you. Absolutely. From her apron pocket, she produced a small tape recorder. My bridge club meets at the country club every Thursday. She said, yesterday, Lily and Robert were in the next booth. They didn't see me, she. Press play. Robert's voice, low and furious. Asterisk, I don't care what it costs, Lily. That trust cannot be upheld. Every cent I have is tied up in the development deal. If we lose Willow Creek as collateral, asterisk Lily, shrill, asterisk you think I don't know that. You're the one who insisted we push Ava out completely. If we'd just given her some token amount, asterisk Robert, asterisk it wouldn't have mattered. The trust supersedes the will. And your idiot grandmother made sure of that. Asterisk a clinking of glasses. Then, Lily, quieter, asterisk what about Langley? Can he hold up under cross? Asterisk Robert's laugh sent chills down my spine. Asterisk for what we're paying him. He'll say whatever we want. Asterisk the recording ended. Daniel exhaled sharply. That's obstruction of justice. Possibly conspiracy. Mrs. Finch patted my hand. Play this in court today and see how fast their house of cards falls. The courthouse steps were swarming with reporters. I kept my head down, clutching Mrs. Finch's recorder in my pocket like a talisman. Inside, the air crackled with tension. Lily and Robert sat stiffly at their table, Robert's fingers drumming an impatient rhythm. Victoria Sharp looked up as we entered, her sharp gaze tracking my every move. Judge Wilkins took the bench with a weary sigh. Counselors, I hope you're prepared to move quickly today. Mr. Thorne, you have new evidence, Thorne stood. We do. Your Honor. First, we'd like to submit proof that Dr. Langley perjured himself at the last hearing. He played a clip from Daniel's research and news report about Langley's license revocation. Then he handed up the court documents linking Robert to the shell company that paid Langley's fine. Sharp shot to her feet. Your Honor. This is a relevant character assassination. It goes directly to witness credibility. Thorne countered. But we have more. He played Mrs. Finch's recording. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambled for the door, likely rushing to break the story. Robert's face turned purple. Lily gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white. Judge Wilkins banged her gavel. Order. Mr. Davenport, you will remain seated or I will have you removed. Robert slowly sank back down, but his glare could have melted steel. Thorne pressed on. Given this evidence of witness tampering and fraud, we move to dismiss the challenge to the trust entirely. Sharp scrambled. Your Honor, that recording was obtained illegally from a public space, Thorne cut in. No expectation of privacy. The judge rubbed her temples. I'll allow it. And given these revelations, she fixed Robert with a withering look. I'm inclined to grant the motion. Unless Miss Sharp has anything substantive. Sharp hesitated. Then, like a snake striking, we still have concerns about Miss Carter's mental fitness to manage such a large estate. Our psychiatric evaluator is ready to testify. Thorne didn't flinch. Then by all means, call your witness. Dr. Eleanor Pritchard looked like someone's kindly grandmother. Not a hired gun. But her testimony was razor sharp. After reviewing Miss Carter's therapy records, she said, it's clear she exhibits signs of adjustment disorder with anxiety. This would make her particularly vulnerable to undue influence regarding financial decisions. I dug my nails into my thighs. They'd taken 2 years of post-breakup therapy and twisted it into a pathology. Thorne's cross-examination was methodical. Doctor, isn't adjustment disorder a common response to major life stressors like, say, the death of one's parents? Pritchard adjusted her glasses. In mild cases, yes. But Miss Carter's history suggests a pattern of... Let's talk about patterns. Thorne interrupted. He approached the bench with a document. Your Honor, we've discovered Dr. Pritchard has been retained by Mr. Davenport's law firm in 6 previous cases, always to question the mental competence of someone contesting a will or trust. The judge's eyebrows shot up. Is this true, Doctor? Pritchard shifted in her seat. I don't recall exact numbers. Thorne handed her a sheet. This is your invoice from the Davenport firm last month for expert witness preparation. Dated. Asterisk before asterisk. Miss Carter even filed her claim. The courtroom buzzed. Judge Wilkins didn't bother hiding her disgust. This hearing is adjourned. The Eleanor Vance Trust is upheld in full. Ms. Sharp, your clients will cease all harassment of Miss Carter immediately, or I will refer this matter to the district attorney. Court dismissed. The gavel cracked like thunder. Outside, the press swarmed. Ava, how does it feel to win? Robert, any comment on the fraud allegations? Robert shoved through the crowd, dragging Lily behind him. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. Daniel squeezed my hand. It's over. But as I watched Robert's car screech away, I knew better. For them, this was never just about money. It was about losing. And Robert Davenport didn't lose gracefully. Willow Creek looked different in the afternoon, light no longer looming. But waiting. Thorne handed me the keys. It's yours, officially. I pushed open the front door. The house was silent, empty. Lily and Robert had cleared out their things, leaving behind only ghosts and the faint scent of Lily's perfume. Daniel whistled. Now what? I walked to the library, to the portrait of Eleanor. Now we find out what else they were hiding. The hidden safe still stood open. But as I reached inside, my fingers brushed something I hadn't noticed before. A small velvet box. Tucked in the back. Inside was a delicate locket. When I pried it open, a tiny photograph of my grandmother smiled up at me. On the opposite side, a slip of paper with faded ink. Asterisk, the cottage is yours, the house is yours, but the real legacy is in the soil. Dig where the roses won't grow. Asterisk, I looked at Daniel. We're not done yet. The locket felt warm in my palm, as if my grandmother's hands still cradled it. I turned the tiny slip of paper over, tracing the faded ink with my fingertip. Asterisk, dig where the roses won't grow. Asterisk, Daniel leaned over my shoulder, his breath stirring. My hair. That's ominous. I snapped the locket shut. We need to find that spot. Mrs. Finch was waiting in the kitchen when we came downstairs, her gnarled hands wrapped around a teacup. She took one look at the locket and sighed. Eleanor always did love her dramatics. You know where she meant? I asked. Of course. She set down her cup with a clank. The northeast corner of the garden. Nothing's ever grown there, no matter how much Martha fussed with it. Eleanor used to say the land was grieving. Daniel grabbed a flashlight from the drawer. Let's go. The garden was overgrown, the paths choked with weeds. Moonlight bled through the clouds as we picked our way toward the dead patch, a stark circle of bare earth beneath the sprawling willow tree. Daniel thrust the shovel into the ground. How deep do you think? The metal hit something solid with a hollow asterisk thunk asterisk. We dropped to our knees, scraping away dirt with our hands. A wooden box emerged, about the size of a bread loaf, its surface blackened with age. I pried it open. Inside lay a stack of yellowed papers, a small leather-bound book, and a single, rusted key. The top document was a deed, but not for Willow Creek. Asterisk, be it known that on this day, Henry James Carter assumes ownership of all outstanding debts owed to the estate of Charles Vance, in exchange for the hand of Martha Vance in marriage. Asterisk, I frowned. What is this? Mrs. Finch made a soft noise behind us. Oh, Eleanor. You *new*. Daniel lifted the little book. As he flipped through the pages, his expression darkened. Ava. This is a ledger. Henry's debts. Every penny he owed, going back decades I snatched it from him. The numbers swam before my eyes loan after loan, each larger than the last. The most recent entry was dated just weeks before my parents' accident. Final payment due to road. $2.3 million. Collateral. Willow Creek deed. Failure to pay equals forfeiture. Road. Robert Davenport. My hands shook. He was going to lose the house to Robert. Mrs. Finch's voice was barely audible. And then they died. A car door slammed in the distance. We all froze. Daniel grabbed the box. Inside. Now. The kitchen lights flickered as we spread the documents across the table. The truth came together in jagged pieces. Henry had been drowning in debt for years. He'd borrowed from dangerous people. Then, when Lily started dating Robert, he saw a way out. Robert would cover the debts in exchange for Willow Creek. But the trust, Daniel said, Eleanor's trust prevented Henry from giving it away. Mrs. Finch nodded. So he tried to break the trust. When that failed, she trailed off, her meaning clear. I stared at her. You think they what? Killed Eleanor? Of course not. She said quickly. But after she died, Henry must have thought he was free. Then you came home, contesting the will. The front door crashed open. Robert stood in the foyer, his suit rumpled, his eyes wild. Behind him, two hulking men I didn't recognize blocked the exit. Give me the box, he said. Daniel stepped between us. Get out. Robert laughed. He pulled a pistol from his jacket. The box. Ava. Mrs. Finch gasped. One of the men grabbed her, wrenching her arm behind her back. Stop. I shoved the box across the table. Take it. Just let her go. Robert flipped through the documents, his jaw tightening with each page. Then he smiled a terrible, lifeless thing. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about the money anymore. He raised the gun. It's about making sure no one ever finds out what your father did. A deafening crack split the air. Robert screamed, clutching his arm as blood bloomed through his sleeve. The gun clattered to the floor. Lily stood in the doorway, her pearl-handled revolver smoking. Enough, Robert, she said. Her voice was ice. The necks are passed in a blur. Police. Sirens. Robert's men fleeing into the night. Lily sitting stiffly on the sofa, the gun still in her lap as she gave her statement. He was going to kill her. She told the officers, I couldn't let that happen. I studied my sister. The perfect posture, the flawless makeup, the trembling hands. She thought no one noticed. Why? I asked when the cops stepped outside. Lily wouldn't meet my eyes. He lied to me. Said the debts were manageable. Said the trust was a formality. She swallowed hard. Then I found the life insurance policies. Both parents, double indemnity. For accidents, my stomach turned. You think I don't know. She finally looked at me, her eyes brimming. But I couldn't risk you finding out. Not like this. Daniel returned from speaking with the police. They're taking Robert in. Fraud, conspiracy, assault. He's done. Lily stood abruptly. I should go. I caught her arm. Stay, please. For the first time in our lives, my sister hesitated, then nodded. Dawn found us in the library. The documents spread between us like pieces of a nightmare. So what now? Daniel asked. Lily answered first. I'll testify. About Robert, the debts, all of it. She looked at me. But Willow Creek is yours. It always should have been. I thought of Eleanor's words asterisk, the real legacy is in the soil asterisk. Not the money, not the house, the truth, and the choice of what to do with it. I reached for my sister's hand. We'll figure it out. Together, outside, the first birds began to sing. The morning after Robert's arrest, Willow Creek stood silent, as if holding its breath. The police had left hours ago, taking Robert with them in handcuffs, his wounded arm hastily bandaged. Lily had given her statement in a voice so quiet. I had to lean in to hear her, her hands steady for the first time in years. Now, she sat at the kitchen table, staring into a cup of untouched tea. Her perfect facade finally cracked. I slid into the chair across from her, the wooden legs scraping against the tile. You knew, I said. It wasn't an accusation, just a fact. Lily's fingers tightened around the cup. Not everything. Not asterisk that asterisk. She meant the life insurance policies. The possibility that our parents' accident hadn't been an accident at all. Daniel leaned against the counter, arms crossed. But you knew about the debts. She exhaled sharply. I knew Robert was helping Dad. I didn't know how much he was asterisk owning asterisk him. Her eyes flicked to me. And I didn't know about the trust. Not until after Mom and Dad died. I believed her. The way her voice wavered on asterisk Mom and Dad asterisk. The way her shoulders curled inward. This wasn't the Lily I'd grown up with. The one who'd always been so sure of her place in the world. This was someone who'd realized, too late, that she'd been a pawn in a game she hadn't even known she was playing. I reached across the table and took her hand. She flinched but didn't pull away. We'll fix this, I said. She laughed, a brittle sound. How? I glanced at Daniel, then back at her. By telling the truth. The truth was messy. It took weeks to untangle Henry's debts, to follow the paper trail Robert had tried so hard to bury. The police reopened the investigation into my parents' accident, though without concrete proof. It would likely remain just that, an accident. Robert, facing charges of fraud, coercion, and attempted assault, cut a deal. He agreed to testify about the debts, about the pressure he'd put on Henry, in exchange for a reduced sentence. He wouldn't see the inside of a prison cell for long, but he'd lost everything else: his reputation, his money, and, most importantly, his hold over my family. Lily filed for divorce the day after his arrest. As for Willow Creek, I stood in the garden one evening, the deed in my hands, the weight of it heavier than I'd expected. Daniel came up beside me, his shoulder brushing mine. What are you thinking? He asked. I looked up at the house, the grand, gabled roof, the ivy climbing, the brick, the windows that had watched me grow up and then watched me leave. It had never been a home to me. Not really. But it could be something else. I'm thinking, I said slowly, that Eleanor didn't leave this house to me because she wanted me to live in it. She left it to me because she wanted me to choose what to do with it. Daniel smiled. So what's the choice? I told him. The paperwork took months. The Eleanor Vance Arts Foundation was officially established in early spring. Its headquarters set up in the garden cottage. Willow Creek itself became a community center. Its ground rooms repurposed as galleries, studios, and classrooms. The turret where I'd found Eleanor's letters was turned into a quiet reading nook, her portrait hanging proudly above the fireplace. Lily, to everyone's surprise including mine, volunteered to manage the foundation's finances. I am good with numbers, she'd said dryly, and for the first time in years, it felt like we were sisters again. The grand opening was held on a bright May afternoon. The gardens were full of people, locals, artists, even a few reporters. Mrs. Finch held court near the roses, telling anyone who would listen about Eleanor's love of the arts. Daniel, of course, was taking pictures, his camera clicking away as kids painted murals on the old garden walls. I stood on the porch, watching it all, a cup of lemonade in my hand. Lily joined me, her heels tapping against the wood. "You're not going to say something? Cut a ribbon? Give a speech?" I shook my head. "This isn't about me." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Mom and Dad would have hated this, you know." I laughed. "I know. For once, that didn't hurt." That night, I sat in the garden cottage my cottage now with Daniel sprawled on the couch beside me, his feet in my lap. The windows were open, the sound of crickets and distant laughter drifting in. "You happy?" he asked. I looked around at my paints stacked in the corner, at Eleanor's journals on the shelf, at the keys to Willow Creek hanging on a hook by the door, no longer a weight but a choice. "Yeah," I said, "I am outside." The first fireflies of summer flickered to life, their tiny lights dancing in the dark.